We would like to welcome you all to this event, and we would like to say may the 4th be with you on this important day. And Commission, our first order of business is adoption of the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second that.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Budd and a second by Commissioner Warren to adopt the agenda. Any public comment to that motion? Turning back to the commission, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes. Our next item will be the invocation. The invocation, I'd like to welcome out from the United Church of Gainesville, Reverend Shelley Wilson. Shelley, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Poe. Thank you, friends. Would you join me as we pray together? It is with gratitude and celebration that we gather this day. Grateful for this life we've been given, for our city and all its peoples, for the earth and our environment of beauty that is so rich it nourishes all this life we share. We're grateful for this place where we have gathered, for the creative gifts of the educator Thelma Boltin, and for others of our forebears whose work on behalf of our city provides foundation for our gathering here today and the life that we share. In particular, we are grateful for the lives of our city commissioners who will be sworn into public office today. For Helen, David, and Harvey, as they join our sitting city commissioners and Mayor Poe, it is our prayer that they will feel both the weight of their responsibilities as public servants and the joy and honor of having been chosen to lead our city. May all of our commissioners and our mayor be given by us and by grace beyond our collective ability all they need to fulfill the duties of their offices with open hearts, active listening, and confidence in what is good and fitting, filled with a willingness to work for the welfare of all of our community. May they be empowered along with all of us to work for unity and vision to make Gainesville a place of peace, equity, and justice for all. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Wilson. Our next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd please stand if you're able and join me. The flag is right up here, stage center. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We now are about to undertake one of the most solemn occasions in the life of any elected official. We have the honor and the duty of taking this oath of office, the same oath of office taken by every elected official that serves at every level of government in these entire United States of America. So whether it's the President of the United States, the governor of our state, or the local mosquito control official, they take this very solemn vow, the core of which is to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. So we are so thrilled to have three of our wonderful and local judges here, each to administer the oath of office to Commissioner Ward, Arreola, and Warren. And so first we will invite up Commissioner Harvey Ward's family, if you'd like to join us on stage. Commissioner Ward, would you please join, and Judge Farrar will administer the oath of office.
Right hand. I, Harvey L. Ward Jr.,
I, Harvey L. Ward Jr.,
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
honor, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and under the Charter of the City of Gainesville,
and under the Charter of the City of Gainesville,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
of
City Commissioner
City Commissioner
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I, David Arreola,
I, David Arreola,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
honor,
honor,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and government of the United States
and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and under the Charter of the City of Gainesville,
and under the Charter of the City of Gainesville,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of City Commissioner
the duties of City Commissioner
on which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
All right, if you'll place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand.
I,
Helen K. Warren,
Helen K. Warren,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
honor,
honor,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution
under the Constitution
of the state
of the state
and under the Charter
and under the Charter
of the City of Gainesville,
of the City of Gainesville,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully
and faithfully
perform the duties
perform the duties
of City Commissioner
of City Commissioner
on which I am now about to enter.
upon which I am now about to enter.
Congratulations.
Again, thank you so much.
Congratulations to all of you. Your city is ready to receive you and your leadership. We are thrilled that you're officially part of this Gainesville City Commission. We now are going to take some time to hear some comments from each of our new commissioners, and in Commissioner Warren's case, returning commissioner. So first, we will invite up Commissioner Arreola.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's City Commission meeting, especially those watching live on Facebook. Bienvenidos usted por hoy especial reunión del Comisión Ciudad de Gainesville y un especial gracias por la familia Arreola que estás viendo en Facebook en vivo. Te quiero mucho. For those of you who are wondering what I just said, we just took this meeting international. In the audience today, I am joined by my brothers, Daniel and Diego. And little did I know, but getting elected to the City Commission actually worked out pretty well for them, because now whenever I'm wrong in an argument, they can ask me, so how many people actually voted for you? I also want to thank Shannon Schmidt. She's Harvard bound, and she can look up at me right now and say that he wouldn't be there without me, and she's not wrong. You did a terrific job managing the campaign. Thank you. And before I begin my remarks, I'd also like to thank everyone who volunteered for my campaign. You helped us beat all the odds. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Carter for his service to the City of Gainesville. As I've spent time acclimating to City Hall, I see clear positive impacts he's had on our city and the people in it. So for that, I'm grateful for his example. I'd also like to thank my fellow commissioners for welcoming me to the team. I look forward to the work we're going to accomplish together. In 2017, there is urgency upon us. The very apparatus of public policy is being eroded from the highest forms of government, and it is upon this generation, those who live in this time and place, to answer the call with the timeless tool of democracy. The City of Gainesville stands strong and more committed than ever to be a government centered around citizens, helping them open doors or close them. We have already made it clear that in Gainesville, people's constitutional rights will not be infringed. This goes for our LGBT community, our immigrant community, and anybody who calls Gainesville home. And the reality of overcoming the challenges of our time, it does go beyond securing our fundamental rights. It will require civic innovation and public participation in its purest form. That way we can ensure a better future for our community, and the work has already begun, and I'm humbled by the tasks at hand. Now, I do recall that Alexis de Tocqueville was 26 when he set out from France to explore the newly born United States. For 8 years, he traveled our country, and he wrote of Americans that the principle of equality suggests to Americans that the idea of indefinite perfectibility of humankind is possible. The idea of perfectibility is as old as the world. How else do you explain our endless drive towards improvement and beauty? If we ask ourselves honestly, we'll admit that we're not searching for perfection, but we're chasing excellence. But if we consider how we view our desire for government, it appears that we are very well demanding perfection and sometimes obstructing excellence. If we are to innovate, and if this city is to aspire to solve our issues, we must make true in our public life what we already know is true in our private life. That success and progress does not come without sacrifice. So it's in that spirit that I say that we're going to meet our challenges with courage. Courage to fight battles bigger than us, wage our passions towards good and not bitterness. For as our country has been destabilized, our city has gone in search of itself, and together we stand united to face down the challenges of the new century. But how should we arrange our priorities? Should it be whichever post gets the most likes on Facebook, or maybe the most retweets? How quickly our hunger for better technology and innovation delivered us our own tools of complacency. As Facebook and YouTube introduced us to Barack Obama, Twitter and smartphones gave power to Donald Trump. Our old ways of political discourse have faded into the background of white noise and saturated opinions. The adversarial system of elections is but a mere aspect of our duty to political discourse. Reestablishing goodwill and not feeding rumors ought to be the best way forward. With goodwill towards one another, we can solve Gainesville's most pressing challenges, and the citizens of Gainesville will be in the lead. Together, we will continue to strengthen our relationships with our neighborhoods and their associations. We will protect our natural environment, including our historic tree canopies. Looking forward, we will need to work hand in hand towards creating an inclusive economy of the future that provides job opportunities with a variety of businesses. We're going to need to commit ourselves to solving the transportation issues within our city that include congested streets, limited public options, and a growing population. We need to promote sustainable growth and revitalize Gainesville's urban spaces. Gainesville's quality of life depends on protecting single-family neighborhoods, planning sustainable growth, and increasing access to multiple viable modes of transportation. In this effort, we cannot become obsessed with the idea of indefinite perfectibility, but we must pursue excellence and equality. In many cases, better technology will be the solution, but it cannot be the be-all and end-all. In September at the Americana Music Festival and Conference, known as Americana Fest, the keynote speaker, T-Bone Burnett, I never thought I'd ever quote anybody named T-Bone, but here it goes. He addressed how technology has hurt our artists. As technology allows us to collect more data than ever before, the limits and financial constraints of technology become our dependency. Burnett says, in the artist's eye, this has commoditized art to a degree that artists are losing the right to price their own talent. And I find it kind of ironic because the ever more open and inexpensive access to music, literature, and film is in complete disproportion to our access to lobbyists and consultants who push laws and elect leaders. If the artists lose their ability to independent expression because of cheaper mediums, eventually we will begin to cheapen our tastes, and we will lose interest in the art that shocks us, teaches us, and wakes us up. To quote Mr. Burnett, art is not a market to be conquered or to bow before. Art is a holy pursuit. I have an additional theory for Mr. Burnett. If elected officials lose their ability to independent expression because of ever cheaper mediums like sound bites, eventually we will begin to cheapen our tastes and we will lose interest in the kind of elected officials that shock us, teach us, and wake us up. Politics is not a market to be conquered or to bow before. Politics is a noble pursuit. Now, luckily in Gainesville and Alachua County, we are blessed with plenty of elected officials who have not given up hope and have continued to remain independent. Evidence of the American dream is around us all, and it is okay to say things are going well. But there are some facts of life in Gainesville that should not be ignored. The growing quality of life disparity divided along racial lines is the most serious threat to our realization of a bright future. Now, being a son of immigrants, I've come to view Gainesville's racially divided economy from a different perspective. The problem has been exacerbated so much over the last century that the daily order of money and influence grows the disparity every day, and every dollar spent in affluence sets people even more far apart from each other. It's going to take reprioritization and sacrifice to address this issue, and I'm ready to lead because I will not tell the next generation that we left this problem for them to solve. That is a promise. We are committed to a future where every child in this city can be fed by someone who has the means to provide for that child, and if we need to provide the means, then so be it. We're also committed to a future where access to a good pension and a living wage isn't a matter of if, but when. And in this kind of future, the rights of all people are not secured just by the government, but by their neighbors. We can revolutionize the way people join their community and work on solutions for common problems. The new UF Strategic Partnership is a turning stone for both Gainesville and the University of Florida. Imagine what this city can achieve by working even more closely with our neighbor and flagship. I can see a more equal and competitive Gainesville with a greater share of prosperity for all to enjoy if we are willing to commit ourselves to that vision. And so I conclude my remarks today to answer the question of someone that I admire very much. What makes me tick? And the answer is love. My love for God and the people I've been lucky enough to know. My love for my country and the city that I love. Love has been our greatest ally, but it has also been our worst enemy. It has raised hopes and it has dealt us heartbreaks, but it does abide. Never forget to let love in, for well you know it's the fool who plays it cool by making the world a little bit colder. Love will guide my years on the City Commission, and surely our love for Gainesville will guide us all. I'd like to close with a poem. All I have is a voice to undo the folded lie, the romantic lie in the brain of the man in the street, and the lie of authority whose buildings grope the sky. There is no such thing as the state, and no one exists alone. Hunger allows no choice to the citizen or the police. We must love one another or die. Defenseless under the night, our world in stupor lies, yet dotted everywhere, ironic points of light flash out wherever the just exchange their messages. May I, composed like them of eros and dust, beleaguered by the same negation and despair, show an affirming flame. Thank you.
Thank you for those inspiring words, Commissioner Arreola. Up next, we're going to hear some comments from Commissioner Ward.
Good afternoon. Of course, I do have prepared comments, but before I get into those comments, I want to talk to you about something that struck me this morning while I was on my way here. I would be remiss if I didn't point out, and many of you already know this, but 47 years ago today, May 4th, was a day when 4 young people lost their lives at Kent State University in a massacre. And a few days later, a number of young people lost their lives at Jackson State University. This is an example of what happens when we stop listening to each other and we stop hearing each other. And that's a message my colleagues and I all need to take to heart, and our community needs to take to heart. On that happy note, I have some comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Judge Ferrero. I want to thank my commission colleagues and honored guests all of you who came from many parts of the state to be here with us today. I want to especially thank my predecessor, Commissioner Todd Chase. We often normally disagreed, but Commissioner Chase gave tremendous effort to this office and to the people of District 2, and I would do well to give as much effort as he did. There are many things you could all be doing with your lunch hour other than sitting here listening to a bunch of politicians, but I'm glad you're here anyway. By the way, now I can tell you that having attended the sine die session of the last City Commission meeting 2 weeks ago, my greatest goal for the next 3 years has become to make it into Mayor Poe's top 5 commissioner list. I am blessed beyond measure to be surrounded today and every day by people who care about me and about our community. Dozens of you helped run and support my campaign, and more than 300 of you supported the campaign financially. You have my heartfelt thanks forever. My wife Jillian, my 3 sprightly daughters, Wesley, Leela, and Kennedy, have all already sacrificed a lot for me to be part of the civic life of our fair city, and I fear their sacrifice is only beginning. I don't need to tell you all how much I appreciate their love and devotion, but I need to tell them every day, and believe me, I will. My sister Liz and my niece Ruby came down from Jacksonville for the day. I've been making my little sister listen to me go on and on about very important things for more than 40 years, so it's only appropriate that she be here for this today. Of course, my father, my namesake, is here with us. Our people, his, mine, my daughters, have been here in Gainesville for a long time. I owe him and them, wards long past, the very best I can offer as a commissioner. Many of you know that my mother, Julia, passed away unexpectedly during the campaign in February. People asked over and over, as people do and should of political candidates, why I was running for Gainesville City Commission. I knew the answer all along, but I haven't shared it with anyone until now. But the real reason is simple and straightforward. My earliest memories are of my mother, a quiet, unassuming teacher from the small town Midwest, singing me an old Woody Guthrie song over and over. This land is your land. This land is my land. This land was made for you and me. You see, I don't remember a time when civic responsibility wasn't a part of who I am and who I wanted to be, and that's why I ran. The moral here is be careful what you sing to your children because they might be listening. Now, while this speech may already seem interminable to some of you, I am acutely aware that 3 years will pass in the blink of an eye. Many years ago, I learned that leaders only emerge for a brief time from the ranks, and to the ranks they must soon return. We are all in this together, but you have entrusted me with one of only 7 sets of keys to our local government. I promise each of you that I will give this office everything you deserve. Now, at this point, you probably think I've forgotten to mention my campaign team. I have not. This is the part where I thank campaign manager extraordinaire Katie Burnett, a long list of community volunteers, many of whom are here in the room today, and more than a dozen unbelievably dedicated interns from the University of Florida and Santa Fe College. I confess that I tried to surreptitiously infect all the interns with a little of that "this land is your land" sentiment. My team, my staff, interns, volunteers, and I made more than 20,000 voter contacts between the first weekend of January and March 14th, working right up until the polls closed that Tuesday. Now, there are dozens of funny and heartwarming stories I could tell you about the doors we knocked on. I could tell you about the naked man who chased a couple of my interns down the street. I could tell you about the many voters who invited me and my volunteers in for coffee or to watch a basketball game. But there's one experience that stands out to me and that I will always remember. One Saturday morning in January, my friend David Melito, who is here, and I were canvassing in Northwood Oaks, and we knocked on a door I was sure would be a great conversation. It was a well-kept home with tricycles and kid toys on the lawn, 2 cars in the driveway, so we knew they were home. I was sure it was my kind of voter. A young man answered the door, and I went right into my spiel. Hi, my name's Harvey Ward. I'm running for Gainesville City Commission. Do you have a moment to talk? Sure, I've got time, but I don't really care. There must be some city issues you're concerned about. Nope, I don't care. How about roads? Everybody likes to talk about roads. Nah. This went on for several minutes before he finally said to me, "What part of I don't care don't you understand?" I didn't want to tell him all of it because that idea was completely foreign to me. I was ready for people to tell me they preferred one of my opponents, or that they thought I was a godless communist, or that they had no tolerance for bald men, any number of other things. I was not prepared for I don't care. I still don't know what to do with that. But here's what it has helped me understand. Perhaps the greatest divide in America today is not between Clinton and Trump voters, or Gillum and Putnam voters, or even Ward and Clausen voters. I don't think it's even racial or an economic divide. This divide that I'm talking about is between those who show up and vote, who feel ownership in the system, and those who have been so disappointed so many times that they have given it up and left it behind. Right now, we, those of us who still believe, who keep casting our ballots come rain or shine, good candidates or bad, we're on the losing side of that divide. Last November, less than half of America's voters showed up. Here in Gainesville in March, in District 2, 4 out of 5 registered voters agreed with the gentleman from Northwood Oaks and stayed home. They didn't mail in a ballot, they didn't vote early, they didn't go to their precinct, they just didn't care. Citywide, the number was even lower, as less than 12% of registered voters made their way to the polls. Y'all, 12% is no way to run a democracy. And my natural inclination, of course, was to go visit all those voters who didn't vote and sing them Woody Guthrie songs until they saw the light. But I understand that might not work as planned. So what do? I believe we do 3 broad things. First, we move Gainesville city elections away from March and put them on a cycle with every other election. That's exactly the response I was looking for. Very good. The plan I've been working with, as many of you have, would have us elect city commissioners in even years in conjunction with the August primary. If there is a need for a runoff, it will happen in November. I believe this will at least double turnout and in the process save our citizens hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, millions over a 10-year period. That final decision isn't mine, it isn't this commission's, it's yours. It could appear before you as soon as your March 2018 ballot, and I hope you will join me in urging my colleagues to allow you to make the decision. The second broad category we can do, that we have to do, we as a commission must make bolder and more innovative decisions as leaders. You have elected us to bring big ideas to the table. See, I believe good government can and should make lives better in this community. Government of, by, and for the people is a good thing, and it's time we stood behind that idea. We have to make good decisions. Just this summer, we're going to be faced with a $1 billion decision on our local utility. We have to get this right. There are no more do-overs. Now, speaking of our local utility, write this down and take it to the bank. Commissioner Harvey Ward will support keeping GRU entirely under local control. Moving beyond utilities, we need innovative ideas that make the conversations we all have around our kitchen tables easier. People all over Gainesville want what people everywhere want: a good job at a living wage, a safe and comfortable place to settle down and maybe raise a family, a decent place to retire with dignity, good roads, dependable utilities, schools we can all be proud of. I know that's what people want in my neighborhood on Glen Springs Road, and I'm pretty sure it's what people want in Duval Heights, in Oak Hammock, in the Duck Pond, in Pine Ridge, even in Northwood Oaks. As citizens, we should expect affordable, reliable, and robust internet access in every neighborhood in Gainesville. We should expect the city of Gainesville to set an example and compensate all its employees fairly and equitably, male or female, black or white. A living wage is not a campaign slogan. We're making it a reality in this community, and it is not negotiable. We should expect our city to work diligently to protect our natural environment and to designate more parklands and conservation areas. We should expect to support our thriving arts community that feeds our souls. We should expect to live well together in a community where we can value our neighbors no matter where they were born, what they look like, or who they love. We should expect that if one of the least of our sisters or brothers lacks their daily needs, we will not say to them, "Go in peace, keep warm, eat your fill," without supplying that need. With that in mind, we should expect to properly fund and empower programs like Grace Marketplace that are already making a difference. Now, keep this in mind. Every citizen of Gainesville is also a citizen of Alachua County. As citizens of both, we should expect our city, county, and school board leaders to do a better job of working together on all these issues and many more. I promise you, one of the reasons my friend in Northwood Oaks doesn't care is that when he opens his morning Gainesville Sun, he sees headlines that tell him we can't work together. It's time we did. We should expect the city of Gainesville and our unique economic engine, the University of Florida, to work together on something besides traffic control after Gator games. For the first time in my life, I believe we have an opportunity to do exactly that. I'm excited to work on the strategic plan UF has put before us, and I believe that if we all roll up our sleeves, we can use that plan to make Gainesville a place where every child has the opportunity to succeed, every working family can thrive, and every elder can age with dignity. But we all have to come to the table ready to work, and I choose to believe we will. The third broad category, and perhaps the most important thing we can do to bridge the engagement divide, is that we must treat each other and our system with respect. Every citizen has the right to an open and welcoming city hall. Every citizen has the right to stand up and speak at our public meetings, in the newspaper, on the internet. But with these rights come responsibilities. Just because we have the right to take cheap shots doesn't mean we should. Make no mistake, every time any one of us has something ugly to say in the public sphere, it makes it that much less likely that the next person will stand up to speak. The chilling effect of unfounded accusation and recreational obstructionism is real, and it diminishes our community and our nation. If we will move elections to a more reasonable and economical time, if we as leaders lead boldly, and if we can all bring our most compassionate, decent, and creative voices to the public well, I believe we will experience citizen engagement the likes of which we've never dreamed of in this community. I want to leave you with one more story. This past Monday night, May Day, I spent the early evening on Bo Diddley Plaza right over here with several hundred friends. We heard the sometimes tragic and compelling stories of a group called Madres Sin Fronteras, Mothers Without Borders. And together we sang Amazing Grace, while dozens of us held up our cell phones for our president to hear that we have already accepted our immigrant sisters and brothers, whether he has or not. This land, this city, it's your city. It's my city. It's their city. It was made for you and me, for all of us, including my friend in Northwood Oaks. And it will become what we make of it. Thank you all, and may divine providence bless us all with wisdom and strength for the road forward, that we may all enjoy the beauty of community together. Thank you.
We have our returning commissioner, an old veteran on the commission, Commissioner Helen Warren.
Yes, good afternoon. And it's a hard act to follow. You know, I think ladies should be able to go first so you don't have to compare yourself to the previous speakers, because we did not get together. We did not discuss what our wishes were and what we were going to say, but you will see that there is a theme that has been presented in all three of our opening remarks, basically, and they are about the connectivity of every one of us. Either we're listening or we're talking. We need to be able to improve our communications. That politics is a noble pursuit, and in this city, because there are term limits, it is a responsibility for leadership to step up every 3 years. And with that, I often say that I feel privileged and honored to be carrying that baton from one term to another. Got a little bit off script, but those are things that I want you to be able to recognize, that the three of us who are starting again today, and for me to have a second term is really an incredible position to be in, because I now understand more about what the city has to offer and what I have to offer in that relationship. So now I'll get back on script. I want to welcome the two new city commissioners. Really delighted to hear your promises and your vision of what the city has to offer. I want to give thanks to my family who is here today. You saw part of them here on the stage, but it's a very large family that I have, and many of them were not able to be here today. I want to give thanks to my friends in the community, that I could not be here without the support of friends who encouraged me to run, who supported me with their donations, and the conversations that we have. Because coming to this place and to be at this podium now, there have been hours and hours of conversations and discussions as to what is it all about? Why run and be in this position where you cannot go to a Publix grocery store without being interrupted by somebody's interest in talking about why you are or not doing something that they feel needs to be done. But it is an honor and a privilege to be in that position. And then I also want to thank my fantastic campaign team. Could not have done it without you. And so then to come to this position of the seriousness of this, it's what is it that one person can say, to do, or reflect on the interests of a commissioner or the full commission. And having 3 years of experience, I've gotten to see a lot of the different layers of what is involved with city government, and I do realize that I am only one of 7. My greatest dreams cannot get anywhere without at least 4 commissioners, 3 others supporting those ideas and this dream. But I do have the belief that this role, my role, our role, is that to be the checks and balances between the residents and the city services that we provide to every one of you here. To be the eyes that oversee the operations and to make sure that the leadership is being managed by individuals who have integrity to get the job done, to express the will of the people for their needs to be met effectively, efficiently, and with integrity. And let me tell you, from getting in on the inside and visiting every department and having 3 years contact with our city employees, that we have a great team here. And everybody who's a city employee, please raise your hand. And those of you who aren't, please give them a welcome and a thanks. I'm not going to spend much time talking about GRU. That this city has their own municipally owned utility is an incredible blessing in many, 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 many ways. I think we've got good leadership. I'm really happy to see the Utility Advisory Board in place to help give that extra surveillance and conversations, to spend the time on the issues that as commissioners with our changing positions, we can't put the attention to the details that are needed, but that we do have great leadership and we've got great members on the Utility Advisory Board, and I thank them. Are there any members of the Utility Advisory Board that are here? They have other jobs too. But let me let you know that they have been well vetted and they have spent a lot of good time looking at their responsibilities seriously for where we are going with our utilities. So we do have a smooth operation from our water supply to our stormwater treatment. And I think that it is there that the role of the city, we can then look at if the services are being provided. My background is in sociology, and I often think about the relationship that we have along the lines of being the parents of the community, or some kind of parental role, either patriarchal or matriarchal, either way you look at it. We are in a position to overlook the needs of the community. And so with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I look at, is the city providing the basic needs? Food, safety, shelter. A big part of our resources, our funding and our budget goes to public safety. The police department, fire and rescue, and then the other services with public works. Our police department is one of the finest. We had a situation a year ago that could have been a crisis. And the leadership that we have with our police department and the county sheriff department addressed the needs of the community in a way that kept us open to having a conversation, that kept us from going into a full-blown riot or one of those things that we see in other communities that are a crisis point. So, Chief, you rock. Our fire department. We have a small municipality with a stressed fire department and fire rescue. Really, most of you see the fire department when they respond to an emergency service call. But we have a ranking of our fire and rescue department that gives every one of you a benefit with your insurance ratings, because we are highly ranked in what they call the ISO. And so our fire department, Chief, any of the fire department here today? Chief, you're the best. So those basic needs, getting our public safety in place, allows us to then think about what are the other services of the city. Are they on target? Are they doing what is needed? And I think with the public works, where a lot of our funding goes, again, to public safety and public works, that we don't have major problems every day on our highways as a reflection of the leadership that our public works department is doing a job, and that it's a job well done. So this is where I say to give thanks to the city employees, and we've already done that, but we can never thank them enough. Really, when you're out in the city and you see people working on some service in the city, do let them know. When you think that there are too many people on the job, let me tell you why they need to be there. We have a high safety policy that our employees are not going to do a job without being supervised. In my house, Flo and I have an agreement. Nobody gets on a ladder without somebody else there. And our city workers, GRU to the rest of the department, they also have many layers of safety requirements in place. And that's why you'll see many workers on the job, but also they have many heads on the job that can help find the solutions that are needed. So there cannot be too many in place when they're working on those issues. So the other basic needs, food and shelter. Most of the city's residents, and I got in trouble for saying this during my campaign, I'm not saying everybody, but most of the city's residents have their basic needs taken care of. They've got food. They've got a place to live in that they're comfortable and in shelter. They can then allow their children and their family to experience leisure activities, and our city's got one of the best city parks and recreation departments. We get ranked for having the services that are of a high quality, and when we were going through the recession, the Parks and Recreation went above and beyond by finding other funding sources and grants that could keep our services on a high level of operation. So we're able to dwell into that realm of creativity, the arts, and religion, where we are blessed to have the freedom to express our religion and our artistic endeavors in any way that our individual needs need to be. But I continue to say, what is it all about? What about those individuals who are struggling every day to get food on the table? Before I get to the downer side, I do love, 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 love the city. I can't say enough in this afternoon. But I am not blinded to the problems that we have. I'm pragmatic that there are things that need to be addressed, and that we have issues that we're not discussing. During the 3 years that I have been on this commission, I've been able to go to events and meetings that were not a part of my pre-commission, enjoying the birds and the outdoors and my own personal time stuff. I was aware of these issues and problems because of my background in sociology. And I recognize that many of those problems are things that go beyond just this city. They are common problems across the globe. The problem or the solution is that the city cannot solve these problems alone. And what you're hearing from the other two already is that this is a government that needs the people. The police department, we can't put enough police chiefs out on the corners to stop the speeding traffic or people that are hurting one another. But in this room here today, we have some of the major entities that are going to need to be part of those solutions that will make this city better and the greatest. They're going to require efforts and agreement to come to some common goals. This aspect of addressing some of those major problems is what really gets me excited about being a part of this city commission. There isn't a better time or place to do some of the things that we need to do. I think one of the problems is that we have a failure to communicate. You heard Harvey mention that we may stop listening. Well, I'm thinking also that we're not talking. You can't listen if nobody's talking about those problems. And I would say that we have, with our city department, one of the best equal opportunity offices. Tori Alston is our director, our charter officer. There he is. In the last year, we have opened the conversation about racial disparity in a way that hasn't been done in a long time. And we need to continue those conversations. We need to find ways to get people who aren't usually at the table to come and have those discussions. We've got to get outside the choir and our comfort zones. We've got to talk to the people who still think there are not problems, and why do we have to talk about Black lives that matter? So, in our comfort zone, we have walked around the hole in the floor and ignored the elephant in the room for how long? How long is long enough? And why do I focus on this failure to communicate? Because I see that there are times when neighbors don't talk to each other. They don't even know who their neighbors are. There was that old rural community aspect that said, that we kind of put down that people knew too much about their neighbors, and that was a nosy, busybody kind of community. Well, now we're seeing the effects of not having enough communication with our neighbors. And you know how it is at a community after a big crisis like Katrina or a mass shooting, comes together in a way that they're proud of at least their reaction and coming together and saying, now I talk to neighbors that I didn't know before? Well, my big question, one of my big things about what is it all about is that I ask, how do we create that sense of community that comes after a crisis before the crisis? Is it possible that we're already in a crisis state? Are we like that frog that's been placed in the pot of cool water and the temperature slowly gets kicked up and we don't realize that the temperature is rising, and that we are getting cooked? And I'm not talking about climate change on this, I'm talking about communities that have changed and need to come together. Beginning of last month, I visited a Head Start classroom, and I was there to see the foster grandparent program. And let me say that that volunteer in that classroom had been there for several years, and we have a great system in our schools to get volunteers. We just need more volunteers in the classroom. And that teacher in the classroom had the room set up with different stages with resources out of our own pocket. We need to supply the teachers with the funds they need to bring up our education. Growing up in Florida as a child, the ages of you all here in the front row, I remember my mother saying that Florida is always the lowest ranked because we couldn't get the funds that we needed in property taxes because the older people didn't think it was important to put the resources there. Well, I gotta say, I'm one of those older people now. And I see many others with a gray hair in this room. We have got to find a way to put those resources in the classroom, and I think we've got to recognize that it's not going to come from Tallahassee, and that's why I'm coming back to my community to say, if it's not us, who? It has got to be for, by, and of the people. We don't have enough money to do it all, but we have the energy and the passion that can do it. The crisis that's in this community. In this classroom of Head Start students, 16 students in the classroom, ages 3, 4, and 5. God, I wish you guys didn't hear this. There are children in our schools who are seeing their parents killed. 3 of those children of 16 saw their parents killed. One of them held her mother's hand as she was dying. Is this not a crisis? If not, when? What is it going to take? Earlier this week, 2 young adults drove into a traffic circle and died as a result of poor judgment behind the wheel. This is where I suggest that we have a failure to communicate. This is an element of education that we are failing to educate. We spend more time and energy discussing the ranking of our sports teams and not enough time talking about the number of failures to provide the basic needs of life for too many in too many areas of this city. And I've had this conversation so many times in the last month and never shed a tear. And today it's different because you are people in this community who care. But I'm going to tell every one of you, we've got to go beyond caring. We have got to put our feet in the spaces and with those others who need the help. So, I'm really excited about things that are going on in this community that may be unique. The problems are not unique, but we have things in this community that can make solutions to those problems happen. Commissioner Gostin, you've been talking about these problems long enough. I think you'll find a commission that's on board to make some changes to some of those elephants in the room and the holes in the floor that we don't think needs attention. Big thing that's going on that I'm most excited about is the University of Florida's strategic plan that says they're going to work on a town and gown relationship. Why is that so important? Because we have had an academic system for too long that has separated students, children, from the community around them, put them into a track to get to college, and if they play soccer or play the flute or some other instrument, That's the extent of their out of the classroom experience, but there is no reason why they should end up getting a college degree with an academic degree, and then they're being told, now go become a part of the community. Why do we not have the K-12 education learning experience looking at the community outside them and trying to think of what some of the problems are that they can be a part of? Because some of them are part of the problem too. But with the University of Florida, they are talking about getting out into the community and giving those students a learning experience. And if they help find the solutions to this community, they can't all stay here, but they will be able to go to another community and help those communities learn how to solve. And that will be Gator eminence, preeminence, that will make this town great. So we've got a university town and gown relationship that's going on that I hope kicks butt, because that's what it's going to take on the educational level. But the private industry, the private and government relationship, members of the chamber, or do we have anybody here with the chamber here today? You guys, I'm putting it to you. We have got to work together on these elephants in the room that need educational opportunities. We've got to help support the school system, and if that's going to take money, we need a vocational program that gets students learning experiences, job opportunities that don't require a college degree, because 2/3 of our students are being left behind by not going to college. We've got to find other ways that they can see that being a plumber, being an electrician is an honorable trade. And we've got to work on those areas of blight, because as a business community knows, when you've got places of blight, those places are avoided for all the other things that we need. We have got to get healthcare, education, and housing opportunities across this community. So with that requires the element of education, and this is the last page here. So here, with the failure to communicate, what we need to do is carry this conversation beyond the city's government walls. It has to be a part of all these community agencies that are out there. When I've been meeting with different agencies, I'm surprised how many groups there are out there that are working on the needs of young children and educational stuff, and they don't know about each other. We can have a synergy impact on the classroom when we get these other agencies in place, and we've got a policy that we're looking at, some kind of a volunteer organization, a community-based organization that goes a little bit beyond what United Way does. That will be unique here to Gainesville, that we can bring more resources together, such as the Women's March and the Indivisible and the communities that are really riled to make America great again by being involved in our communities here, because that's what it's going to take. We, the people, are going to have to take back our community and be involved with the solutions that are here. So we've talked about safety on our roads. Let's put a challenge out to the University of the Florida State University and say we can have fewer fatalities in this city than you can. You can maybe have the best touchdowns, but we'll have fewer fatalities in this city. We need to create those policies. This is what we do. We create policies, but it has to be for the people, and that we will create policies that will foster economic and academic performances and improvements to reduce the disparity. That Alachua County is one of the lowest or the highest ranked for economic and academic disparity. That should be our crisis. We should make changes and bring up the classroom learning experience. So my commitment, I want to get this Vision Zero, reduce our fatalities. I want to get the housing conditions improved where we not only have cheap housing, but we've got energy efficient housing. We'll quit pointing the fingers at GRU, because the condition really is the quality of housing that needs to be improved in many, many, many cases. We are working on the utility rates to commercial businesses. We're going to work on commercial rates. But I don't think that these are lofty ideas. You know, getting internet available for everybody, affordable internet service. Those aren't lofty ideas, but there are things that are going to be required, 3 others to me, to get these ideas across. So you've heard it today is the 4th, and I'm going to say, you know, to come forward and say, you know, may the 4th be with you. We know that the 4th in the force is orange and blue with the sky and the sun that rises above us. And there was one poem that somebody else read, so I'm going to take a slant on William Shakespeare and say, if all the world's a stage and we are but its actors, let us be among the ones who act as if it matters. Thank you.
Our next item is the election of the Mayor Commissioner Pro Tem. This is the person who fills in for me when I'm unable to perform my duties. As anybody who's done it before realizes, it's quite an important and time-consuming post. And so, as the custom has it, I will recognize current Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem, Helen Warren, for a motion.
Okay, I would, if I may, just have 2 minutes to be able to say that it has been a great honor to be able to serve as Mayor Pro Tem. You gave me many, many, many opportunities with your busy schedule and family needs that I got to, again, participate and attend so many different community events and understand, again, the depth of the beauty that this town has. So with that, what I'd like to make a recommendation, a motion to, and this is really tough. We've got 2 excellent commissioners that have been on for 2 years, and they have very focused items that they have been pushing for the last 2 years that they've been on. But I would like to make a motion for Harvey Budd to be recognized, to be considered as the Mayor Pro Tem.
Is there a second? Is there a second to that motion? Okay. A motion and a second to have Commissioner Harvey Budd be Mayor Pro Tem for the coming year. Any public comment on that motion? Turning back to the commission, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned.